Well, pnawn da, and a very warm welcome to you all to our Estyn live session this afternoon, focusing on apprenticeships. Before we begin our presentation, let's start with some housekeeping. And part of this webinar will be in Welsh, and we have English language interpretation available. So in order to access the translation, go to the three dots that state more at the top of your screen. Select Language and Speech, then select Language Interpretation and choose to listen in English. And that will mean that you will be able to hear an English translation whenever someone speaks in Welsh. And I'm going to start in Welsh. Felly, Mererid Wyn Williams ydw I, a dwi'n un o'r cyfarwyddwyr cynorthwyol yn Estyn. Diolch am ymuno â ni heddiw ar gyfer yn sesiwn Estyn yn fyw ar Prentisiaethau. Ac yn ymuno â mi mae Matt Williams, arolygydd eifawr hydy, a bydd Matt yn rhoi adolygiad cryno o'r cylch arolygu Prentisiaethau diwetha i ni, a bydd yn rhannu cryfderfau ar arfer effeithiol a welwyd yn ogystal â'r meysydd i'w gwella. Ac mae'n bleser mawr gen i hefyd gael croesawu Bernie Tyler, cyfarwyddwr consortiwm B-Wobble, Faith O'Brien, prif weithredwr Cambrian Training, ac Anne Jones, cyfarwyddwr ansawdd Cambrian Training. A bydd y tair yn rhannu cipolwg o'r arfer effeithiol rydym wedi ei weld yn eu lleoliadau nhw. Os oes gynnwch chi gwestiwn i'r panel yn ystod y sesiwn, defnyddiwch y blwch cwestiwn ac ateb, y Q&A, ar dop eich sgrin yn hytrach na'r blwch sgwrsio neu chat. Mae'n bosib hefyd gofyn eich cwestiwn yn anhysbys. Felly digon gen i am y tro, a rwan mi wna i droi at Matt ar gyfer I adolygiad o'r cylch Prentisiaethau diwetha. Matt.
Diolch yn fawr, Mererid. Prynawn da pawb. I'll continue in English now. So, over the next few minutes, I'd just like to share some of the key messages emerging from our most recent apprenticeship inspection cycle, which started in November 2022 and concluded with the 10th and final provider inspection this time last year in June 2025. Now, when we look across the inspections completed during the cycle, the overall picture was a positive one. We saw apprentices developing strong, practical, technical and workplace skills and making productive contributions to their employers from an early stage in their programme and quickly becoming valued members of their workplace. One of the strongest features across the sector was the quality of the relationship between learners, assessors and tutors. And these supportive relationships played a crucial role in maintaining engagement for learners, supporting their well-being and helping them progress and achieve their apprenticeship frameworks. We saw significant improvements in how providers identified learners with additional learning and support needs at an early stage in their programmes and how they put appropriate support in place. Many providers had invested in specialist staff who worked closely with assessors and tutors to ensure that learners received tailored, timely interventions that helped them succeed. And we also found that pastoral care was a real strength across the sector, where again providers had dedicated well-being or learner support teams who, alongside assessors, built strong, trusting relationships with their learners. And this wraparound support helped learners overcome any personal or practical barriers they had and helped maintain their well-being. And this helped them remain engaged throughout their apprenticeship journey. Across the sector, we found that providers had well-established safeguarding processes, where staff were well-trained and clear on reporting arrangements, which helped to create safe learning environments where learners knew who to turn to if they had any concerns. Teaching, training and assessment were generally well-planned and of a good quality. Learning programmes were structured effectively with clear sequencing that helped apprentices build their knowledge, skills and confidence over time. And training and assessment were closely aligned to workplace practice. Assessors and tutors had a good understanding of employer needs, and they used real work activities and vocational context to make the learning relevant, which helps apprentices apply what they've learned directly in their workplace. And finally, providers demonstrated a strong commitment to responding to the changing needs of employers, sectors and regional economies. We saw providers working proactively with employer partners, industry groups, and wider stakeholders to ensure that their apprenticeship provision remained relevant, supported workforce development, and was responding to the emerging skills needs. And alongside these strengths that we identified, inspectors identified a wide range of effective practice that we've subsequently published through our case studies and report on our Estyn website. Several of these examples focus on the highly personalised approach to learner support, where providers use diagnostic information effectively to tailor support. We also saw examples of strong teaching and learning, particularly in relation to high-quality questioning techniques, which challenge learners and deepen their understanding. Other examples highlighted effective approaches to embedding Welsh language and culture, innovative work to meet community and learner needs, and strong employer engagement where providers were playing a leading role within their sectors. And two examples we particularly like to focus on today relate to sector leadership and partnership working, which are areas that we saw particularly strong during the cycle. So to bring those examples to life, we're delighted, as Mererid said, to be joined by colleagues from two providers who will share their experiences directly. So our first contributors will be from Cambrian Training Company. As Mererid said, we have Faith O'Brien, Managing Director, and Anne Jones, Director of Quality from Cambrian, that have joined us. And during their inspection in June 2024, Cambrian demonstrated particularly strong practice in employer engagement and sector leadership in the hospitality, food and drink sector. Inspectors found that Cambrian worked closely with employers and industry bodies to understand workforce needs and shape apprenticeship provision accordingly. So Faith and Anne will now share more about how that approach works in practice and the impact that it's had for their learners and employers. So I'll hand over to you now, Faith.
Thank you, Matt. Prynon down. Good afternoon, everybody. One of the things that has become increasingly important in Cambrian Training's work is being connected to the sectors we serve. Our participating in sector bodies, employer forums and industry groups at both a strategic and operational level really matters to us. It allows us to contribute to the long-term direction of skills development while also staying close to the day-to-day realities employers face. This helps ensure that our vision and strategic objectives align with what industry actually needs, rather than what simply looks good on a piece of paper. Being in constant conversation with employers, hearing their challenges, understanding their future skills needs, and feeding that intelligence back into programme design helps create training that evolves with the sectors rather than lagging behind it. It also has taken time to find the right balance. Some organisations have strong strategies but limited operational insight. Others are excellent on the ground but less involved in shaping the bigger picture. Working across both spaces helps support employers today while preparing learners for the jobs of tomorrow. We also invest heavily in the wider workforce development across the sector, not just through apprenticeships, but through championing skills development at every level. This includes organising, managing, supporting and promoting skills competitions, encouraging participation, coaching learners and celebrating their achievements. Competitions raise standards and shine a spotlight on the incredible talent that exists in Wales. It also helps to engage and promote employers and their organisations. But beyond competitions, we also play a role in promoting the sector itself, helping young people, career changers, employers, and seeing the opportunity available. Through events, partnerships, and community engagement, we aim to highlight that this is a vibrant, exciting industry with real progression pathways. It's really difficult for us to distill everything that we do with employers, but we do in reality and on the ground categorise employers into large employers with multi-layered structures. And in that instance, we try and have a communication strategy that hits from a strategic senior management team level and an operational team level. We have another category that looks at medium sized employers, and again that's less strategic but more senior management team and operationally engaged. And then we have the smaller employers where there is a high degree of operational engagement. This though doesn't stop us from engaging and providing the same service to all of our employers, but we shine a spotlight especially on those employers that are regionally significant and high priority to us. It's taken time for us to find the right balance. Some organisations have, like I said, some strong strategies, and therefore we very much focus on how we turn those strategies into operations. And some of our employers have good, strong operational engagement, and then it's how we work with them at a strategic level to drive that forward. I'd like to hand over to Anne now, who's going to talk about on the ground how we actually do that. Anne is our quality director at Cambrian Training. Anne, can I hand over to you now while I put this on mute?
Lovely, thank you, Faith. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about how we've tailored apprenticeships. So a key area of our work is tailoring apprenticeships around employer needs, rather than relying solely on off-the-shelf programs. We work with employers to map training to the specific skills required in the job roles and co-design pathways that make sense for their businesses. Examples, we've worked very closely with KeyPack. We've looked at job roles, we looked at job descriptions and mapped them against apprenticeship programs and additional units. This collaboration ensures apprentices develop the competencies the workplace actually needs and employers can see the impact quickly. It creates a more responsive and relevant approach to skills development. So workplace embedded training. So a major factor in making this work is the background of our training team. Mostly all trainers are industry practitioners, often still working within the sector. Examples, we have strong elements of that within our hospitality sector. This keeps their skills current and allows them to bring real-world insight into every session, integrating learning directly into workplace contexts. Learners receive training that feels practical, relevant, and aligned with industry expectations. So it's the combination of co-design, job-specific, mapping, and industry active trainers that makes the delivery model effective. So how do we look at skills gap? Hugely important is identifying skills gap and shaping targeted provisions around them. This involves analysing workforce trends, listening to industry, and spotting gaps before they become critical. A proactive approach helps ensure training meets both current and future workforce needs. And how do we do that effectively? We hold masterclasses within food manufacturing, knife skill, boning of meat, within hospitality, masterclasses within fish and poultry. I wanted to share with you an onboarding programme that we've been working very closely with a key employer, KeyPack. They have employees enrolled onto programmes. They go through a 12-week onboarding programme before they actually move on to the apprenticeship programme. This has proved really, really successful. I think we got over 50 learners on apprenticeship programmes within KeyPack, ranging from food manufacturing, team leading, right the way through to management. So long-standing relationships with employers, it also plays a major role. Many partnerships span years built on trust, shared understanding, and continuous improvement. These relationships allow programs to be continuous improvement. These relationships allow programs to be refined, adapted, and kept relevant as the sector evolves. So operationally, when you bring all of this together, targeted provision, structure onboarding, strong employee relationships, you create a skills system that is not only functional, but is genuinely effective. Diolch, if I could hand back to Faith, please.
Thank you, Anne. I just wanted to pick up really quickly and acknowledge that everything that Anne and I have discussed today, identify as skills gaps, build in targeted provision at both the strategic and operational level, does require a significant amount of resource and investment and is often not a short-term fix. It's something that takes a number of months and years to actually see the impact. Thank you. I'm going to hand over now to you, Matt. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, both. Diolch yn fawr. Really appreciate your contributions there. You'll be able to see the published case study from Cambrian Training on our website as part of our apprenticeship sector improvement resources. Okay, our second contributor today is Bernie Tyler. Bernie is the director of the BWBL Consortium, which is a large consortium led by Pembrokeshire College, including several colleges and independent training providers. Now, during BWBL's inspection this time last year in 2025, Inspectors found that Be Wobble had developed a highly collaborative partnership model, which was based on shared accountability, effective communication, and a clear focus on improving learner outcomes, which demonstrated how strong partnership working can create that culture of continuous improvement while ensuring that learners remain at the centre of decision making. So I'll hand over to Bernie now, who will talk us through that approach and the impact that it's had. So over to you, Bernie.
Sorry, Matt, I'm just having a delivery, has just arrived. 2 seconds. So pnawn everybody, and diolch Matt for inviting me to speak today. So first of all then, so my key message today really is that, I'm so sorry, I couldn't have been timed worse, couldn't it? Right, I'll start again. So obviously you've got the slide in front of you, you can see what we do, but my key message today really is that our effectiveness comes from our maturity as a consortium, our transparency in the way that we trust each other. This has developed over time. The consortium has been working now for 15 years. We have 8 partners and we have 4 colleges and 4 independent training providers. And I think that mix is one of our major strengths in terms of being able to share very different delivery models and experiences. We deliver to over 5,000 apprentices per year, so it's no mean feat that we all manage to do it all quite well, and we all support each other. So I'd like to talk about 3 different things today, and the first one is the way in which we collaborate. So first of all, what does that actually mean to us as Be Wobble? Well, I think it starts with our shared vision and strategy right from the beginning. We have a very clear collaboration agreement and very clear guidelines and due diligence for who is part of our consortium, and that is really, really important to us, that we all share the same culture and values from the outset. The other thing that we do particularly well, I think, is challenge. It makes it sound, because we work well, it makes it sound like maybe it's quite a cozy relationship, but it's very much not like that at all. It's a challenging relationship in which each provider challenges each other and comes together to make sure that what we do is for the benefit of the learners. And I think this spreads into every part of our delivery, not just with leaders, but through operations, assessors and compliance. Every part of what we do is a collaboration, and every outcome and everything that happens to everyone is shared with each other so that we can all learn at all times. If I could just give you an example, we manage performance between us as a consortium with 6 KPIs. Those 6 KPIs are agreed annually, and we adjust them through collaboration and discussion to make sure that the outcomes from those KPIs give the best experience for our learners and employers. Every year we focus our quality review that we do to look at our own provision in a similar way to Estyn do, and we do that collaboratively through our quality management group. And even when we look at financial allocations, that is done at our executive board, where different examples are posed by my Be Wobble team, and then providers can put forward their own models, which we then discuss, agree on and allocate based on that. The second thing I'd like to talk about is sharing. And I don't mean just sharing best practice, but I mean sharing all experiences, good and bad. That's like, so problems that we might have on the inside of each provider, problems we might have as a Be Wobble team, but also things that are happening on the outside. For example, today in a meeting, one of our providers shared some issues they were having in an awarding organisation. Not everyone was aware of it, and we're then enables everyone to know what's going on and to improve as a result. Another example is one provider within a consortium, a small provider, has timely completion rates of 100%. So that provider came to our annual practitioner conference and presented to everyone on how they do that, and then enabled questions for other providers then to learn from. Other examples include we have 2 sector groups, one for construction and one for health and social care. Both of those have been running for 2 years or more, where we've tackled some of the really pressing issues that have arisen within those 2 sectors. And it's allowed us to learn off each other, and providers struggling with things like health and social care have been able to improve based on what other people have done. The other thing, which maybe not everyone would do, of course, is that all our data is visible to everyone at all times. So we have shared dashboards where anyone can see at any point how somebody is performing, and that enables them, if they're having a problem, to maybe approach another person in the consortium for help. And that happens quite often in terms of especially in health and social care and construction. The third thing I'd like to mention today is, we do all these things, what is the impact? So I think none of this would be worth it if we didn't have positive impacts as a result. Our outcomes over time remain at or above national comparators, and we're delighted with that. And our timely improves year on year, coming close now to pre-COVID levels, which we're particularly pleased with. It's created a positive culture in that it's very open and transparent, so people don't hide things. And if there's underperformance, we share what that is and look for help for that underperformance. Everyone drives professional learning throughout the consortium, and that comes from the outcomes of our quality reviews and results in conferences and teaching and learning events. So really, to wrap that all up, what I'd really like to say that obviously I'm just the spokesperson today, speaking on behalf of our consortium, but the effectiveness comes from everyone and everyone that is part of that, and it's about our engagement and appetite to share and be a partnership and to make sure that everything we do is for the benefit of the learner experience. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Bernie. That's great. And again, you'll be able to find more details of that particular case study on our improvement resources on the Estyn website. Just search for the apprenticeship sector. Okay, well, moving on then. So whilst there is much to celebrate across the sector, of course, our inspections did identify a number of recurring areas for improvement as well, and recommendations that we left with providers in our inspection reports. Now, the most common issue related to timely completion. Now, that is the proportion of apprentices that complete their framework within the expected timescale. And in 9 out of the 10 inspections, providers received a recommendation relating to timely completion. And that was particularly prevalent in providers of health and social care. Linked to timely completion was the variability in target setting and progress planning. So whilst most learners were having regular progress reviews, they often focused on the next assessment or review rather than those medium to long-term milestones. And as a result, learners and employers weren't always clear about what needed to be achieved to stay on track for timely completion. We found that although providers generally had well-established self-evaluation and quality improvement processes, they weren't always evaluative enough or focused sharply enough on the priorities that will have the greatest impact for learners and their outcomes. Employer engagement was variable. Whilst many employers were highly supportive of their apprentices, this wasn't consistent across all sectors. In particular, employers weren't always fully involved in the learner reviews or in supporting learners for the off-the-job learning elements of their study. And that was particularly evident in sectors where operational pressures made it difficult to release apprentices. Again, in sort of health and social care, and particularly in the sort of adult social care sector, that was coming through. And finally, we identified there were opportunities to strengthen the development of learners' literacy, numeracy, and digital skills by embedding them more consistently into vocational learning and workplace activities, which obviously helps them see the relevance in their day-to-day roles. So since the end of the cycle of apprenticeships in June 2025, we have paused our core inspection activity for a period of 2 years. Now, this pause is to allow MEDAs to consult on and implement the new apprenticeship programme arrangements from the autumn of next year, 2027. So, in agreement with MEDA and based on those key findings from our inspection cycle that we've talked about today, over the last year, we have been undertaking enhanced link visits with providers. And those visits have focused on 2 important themes: timely completion rates and adult social care provision. And you can see on the screen the title pages of 2 reports that are still hot off the press that we've published on our website over the last week, which provides further insight into some of the recurring challenges and more in-depth challenges that these particular aspects we found during our enhanced link visits. So if we have a look at the key issues from those 2 reports, just wait if the slide can tick on. There we go. Great. So if we start with timely completion rates. Now, whilst we found over the 3-year period that we looked at, timely completion rates were gradually improving, still around 1 in 5 apprentices still completes their apprenticeship more than 3 months after their expected end date. We found significant variation between providers and vocational areas, and the greatest challenges were in the health and social and construction sectors. And delays were often linked to inconsistent target setting, learner monitoring and intervention. We also recognise that some factors are outside of providers' control, so qualification and external assessment arrangements, for example, and also the existing funding rules that don't always encourage learners to complete at the pace that they're capable of. And in terms of the adult social care provision, we found that the employer commitment to apprenticeship requirements, particularly in relation to releasing learners for off-the-job learning and engaging in the process of learning, wasn't strong enough. We found that the delivery of essential skills Wales continued to be a barrier to timely completion. And we also identified ongoing challenges affecting higher apprenticeship provision, where the new qualification reform and external assessment arrangements were contributing to delays in achievement. And providers also told us that an increasing learner support need was placing greater demands on pastoral and wellbeing services. Now, in both reports, we conclude with a series of reflective questions which are intended to support professional discussion across the sector to consider how collectively we can continue to improve learners' experiences. And it is encouraging that some of the issues identified in the reports are already being considered through MEDA's consultation on the future apprenticeship programme. The proposal for a more flexible funding arrangement, for example, that would better recognise individual learner need. So coming back to our provider colleagues that have joined us then, if we think about timely completion, we saw that there is wide variation between providers, but actually in your two providers, we'd seen strong year-on-year improvement for timely completion rates, and you were among the strongest in terms of the sector for timely completion rates. So perhaps could you share an example of the approaches you've taken to improve timely completion rates over recent years? Perhaps Faith, if I come to you first for that one.
Thank you, Matt. So I think, again, we've had to reflect on what we actually did as an organisation, but I think it's fair to say that following COVID, Cambrian Training placed a renewed strategic emphasis. It was a perfect storm for us to actually look at the learner progress coming out of COVID, where the learners were at, and also where the employers were at in terms of their engagement with apprenticeships and the progress through their qualification, with timely completion embedded directly into the staff KPIs. We reviewed all of the staff KPIs and made sure it was a top priority. And also we made it clear in terms of performance expectation for those individuals that were coming out of COVID as a top priority. A key part of this shift has been the introduction of a structured cyclic review process. So we're looking forward instead of looking backwards. So every year we look at the cohort of individuals that are due to achieve that year, and literally line by line we go through every learner to look at the progress that they have, if they're on track, and if you like, we RAG rate them in terms of risk to make sure the level of intervention required for them to achieve by their expected end date. Anybody that does tip over, because obviously we have a number that do pass their expected end dates, well in advance, we're aware that that will happen. We've already got a plan of attack in terms of how we can support that individual and employer in terms of achieving them within a timely fashion. So in summary, it's proactive, it's being data-driven approach. So we use a lot of data across the board. It's clear KPIs from a strategic level, but also from an operational level, regular monitoring and early intervention when required. And I think that sums up how it's been central to us improving. Again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of effort and resource in order for that to happen. And what we've seen is a year-on-year improvement. Thank you, Matt. I hope that answers the question.
It does, yeah. Thanks, Faith. Bernie, I want to ask you that question in the interest of time, but perhaps if we move on to some of the issues we picked up in social care. Essential skills continue to be a barrier for some of these learners, don't they? Just interested in any of the strategies you've introduced there to support learners in engaging and completing essential skills and generally developing their literacy and numeracy skills over time.
Yeah, I think, it is a challenge and an ongoing challenge. A lot of our delivery is in health and social care, so it's something we've seen quite a lot of. I think the one thing that we've been looking at for the last couple of years, and certainly since COVID, is that front loading of essential skills, trying to make sure that there's something that is approached right from the beginning and that is planned based on initial assessment from the outset, and that once that is decided, those targets are reviewed time and time again through the review process to ensure that the learners are making progress and it doesn't just get left to the last minute. Because when that does, obviously, then that is when sort of issues arise. We try and contextualise as much as possible. And whilst you can do it within the qualification, of course, when you come to some of the assessments, that's not possible. It makes it quite difficult then for the learners to really see the relevance. So I think that's a really important part of it, making a learner, especially a health and social care learner who's got such a busy job, see why they're doing essential skills and what it means to them. Looking from a challenge point of view, I would like to sort of just say that learners where English is not their second language, this is a challenge which is absolutely huge and much bigger than it is for everybody else. So not only have they got the complexity of the essential skills, they got the complexity of understanding the language. And I think that is something that continues to actually affect timely, which we've just talked about. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. And that's certainly a growing challenge in that particular sector. Yeah. Okay. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to have a look at those 2 reports. Again, they've been published on our website, and there's a lot in there to have a look at and digest. Okay, so as we look ahead then, our focus will shift now towards the next steps for apprenticeships at Estyn. So I'll hand back to Mererid to talk through that and take any questions. Diolch, Mererid.
Ie, diolch Matt. Ie, fel roedd Matt yn dweud, dyna edrych yn ôl ar yn gwaith, be dyn ni wedi fod yn ei wneud, ond be nesa. Wel, y flwyddyn nesa, mi fyddwn ni'n parhau efo'n saib o arolygiadau craidd, tra bod trefniadau contractio newydd medr yn cael eu rhoi mewn lle. A bydd arolygwyr cyswllt yn parhau i ymgysylltu â'r sector gyda ffocws estynedig ar adeiladwaith. A bydd y gwaith yma yn arwain at adroddiad mewnwelediadau pellach yn sgil y flwyddyn. Ac wrth gwrs, bydd y sector fel arfer yn dangos yn adroddiad blynyddol y prif arolygydd. Y flwyddyn nesaf hefyd, mi fyddwn ni yn datblygu ein trefniadau arolygu newydd ac yn ymgysylltu â chi a phartneriaid neu randdeiliaid fel rhan o'r datblygiadau hynny. Ac unwaith bydd y trefniadau wedi datblygu, ei mireinio, mi fyddwn ni yn cynnal hyfforddiant i arolygwyr cymheiriaid cyfredol ar y trefniadau newydd cyn ail gychwyn cylch arolygu yn y flwyddyn academaidd 2027-28. Ac mi rydym ni yn debygol o gynnal hyfforddiant cychwynnol i ddarparwyr neu i ddarpar arolygwyr cymheiriaid unwaith y bydd y trefniadau newydd yn ei lle. Dwi wedi bod yn cadw golwg ar cwestiynau ac ateb, a dyn ni ddim wedi derbyn cwestiynau yn ystod y sesiwn yma, ond os oes gynnoch chi unrhyw gwestiynau i ni, mae croeso i chi e-bostio ar cyfathrebu @estyn.llaw.cymru ac fe wnawn ni ddod yn ôl ato chi. A mi fedrwch chi ddefnyddio'r un cyfeiriad e-bost i rannu unrhyw adborth ar yn sesiwn ni heddiw. Cofiwch, mae yna lawer iawn o wybodaeth am yn gwaith ni ar wefan Estyn, adroddiadau arolygu fel y byddwch chi'n disgwyl, ond hefyd adroddiadau thematig, arfer effeithiol, mewnwelediadau a ffodlediadau misol. Ac mae modd i chi gofrestru am y diweddariadau yma ar ein gwefan, felly da chi gnewch hynny. Ac mae'n amser felly i fi ddod â'r sesiwn i ben. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am ymuno â ni pnawn yma ar ddiwrnod mor braf a phoeth. Mae hi wedi bod yn hyfryd iawn cael eich cwmni chi. Ond diolch yn arbennig i Bernie, Faith ac Ann am rannu eu profiadau nhw a'i harbenigedd nhw yn y maes yma efo ni. Ar yn rhannu i gyd yma yn Estyn felly, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi am fynychu a mwynhewch eich noson. Hwyl fawr iawn i chi.